today's class, we'll be talking about the different topics than what we have discussed in the other day class. So before I go with the today's topics, let me give a brief glance about what we have discussed in the last class. So in the last class, we were talking about the creation of AWS account, right? How to create AWS account. So I guess everybody has created their created your AWS account. So from today onwards, you'll be needing, I mean, if you want to practice, you need the AWS account. So make sure if you haven't created AWS account till now, so at least by tonight or by tomorrow's class, you need to have your AWS account. And then apart from AWS account creation, we have also seen a brief overview about the AWS account and how to access different services that are available in the AWS. And along with that, we have also talked about how to enable the multi-factor authentication to your AWS account, which becomes an additional security layer for your account. So that's what we have seen in the last class. Now in today's class, we'll be talking about uh, two different concepts. The first concept is about the AWS global infrastructure. So we'll be seeing, like, we are talking about AWS and all, right? So let's see what are the different components that are available in the AWS global infrastructure. Infrastructure in the sense, what kind of infrastructure AWS maintains, because it is providing some 200 or 200 or 250 plus services AWS is being provided. Now, in order to maintain all these services, they need to have some infrastructure, right? What kind of infrastructure usually AWS has, and on a global scale, what are the different types of infrastructures that are available? That's one thing which we are going to focus. And in specifically, we are going to talk about two particular things in AWS global infrastructure. One is called as regions, and the second one is called as availability zones. So these two things will focus on a large scale. We have two more other things also, which is called as edge locations and regional edge cache location. I'll talk about that in some time anyways. And then we'll be talking about the introduction to S3, which is the first service which we are going to start. So S3 is called a simple storage service. Anyways, I'll talk about that once we finish the concepts related to the AWS global infrastructure. Now let's go back and talk about the AWS global infrastructure. Now, before I talk about the global infrastructure, so first let us understand what is this parameter of global infrastructure. As I was telling earlier, that AWS is going to provide, okay, AWS is providing some 200 to 250 plus services it is providing, right? 200 to 250 plus services it is providing. Now, in order to maintain these 250 plus services, in order to maintain these 250 plus services, AWS should have some infrastructure. Okay, AWS should have some infrastructure. That infrastructure is called as AWS global infrastructure. Now, what does this infrastructure consist of? Forget about this regions and availability zones. We'll talk these two things in some time. But let's understand the infrastructure. What is this infrastructure? Now, to understand this term called infrastructure, let's say that you want to open a startup company. Okay, you want to open it, or you want to start a company which is a startup based company. Okay, let's say some X company you are going to start, which is basically a startup company. Now, in order to establish this startup company, okay, in order to establish this startup company, you need to have some infrastructure. Now, what is that infrastructure? Let's say that you are going to start a company which is related to, let's say, manufacturing of, okay, let's say manufacturing of, let's say that kind of sweets. You can say it as manufacturing of sweets. This is the infrastructure which you are going to work with, which you are thinking to start. Now, in order to manufacture the sweets, okay, in order to manufacture the sweets, you need few infrastructure. First thing is you need some basic utilities. Okay, like kind of what are the equipment that are required to in order to make the sweets, the bowls and all, right? The bowls, the shape of the sweet, all these things that are required. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing that is required is manpower. You need to have some manpower. You alone you cannot do. You need at least 2 or 3 people to work along with you. That's the second infrastructure. And then after that, you need a physical location. You need a location because you have to, you are thinking to open a shop, right? In order to, if you're thinking to open a shop, obviously you need to have the physical location where that location should be there, right? People will come to that particular location and they'll buy the sweet. So these are basic infrastructure that is required to open this startup. Now, in a similar way, AWS is providing some 250 plus services, and to maintain these 250 plus services, it also requires physical location. Okay, it also requires physical location. Though the companies are not maintaining the physical location, AWS has to maintain. Suppose let's say that you want to buy some servers. So in order to buy some servers, we'll use a resource called, or we'll use a service called EC2. That's the service which we'll use. Now let's say that you are asking AWS. Let's say there is a user, okay, and this user, let's say he is from a company called IBM. Now the person who is from IBM, he'll say to AWS that I need 100 servers. Okay, I need 100 servers. That's what he tells to AWS. Now, what AWS should have? AWS should have these 100 servers. Forget about whether they are physical servers or virtual servers. They need to have some equipment to maintain these 100 servers. Okay, they need to have some racks or some building should be there to maintain this 100 servers. So that's called as infrastructure. That's what global infrastructure. Now let's see, there are two components that are available in global infrastructure. That the first one is called as regions and the second one is called as availability zones. So first let's talk about regions and then I'll go to the availability zones. Fine. So I'll show you this one. Yeah. So you can see availability zones. These are the different components that are available in the global infrastructure. The first one is called as availability zones. The next one is called as regions, and then edge locations and the regional edge caches. So these two are not of major importance. We need only these two to be understood at a larger scale, because whenever you are working with AWS, you need to know the region and you need to know the availability zone concept. These two are not required. Edge locations and regional edge caches are not required. Anyways, so first let us talk our discussion with respect to the availability zones and regions. And then we'll move to the edge locations and the regional edge caches. Now, before I explain what is availability zone and what is region, first let's see globally. Okay, since AWS is a global service, it is not that which is limited to only India or only USA. Okay, it is a global service. Now, when I talk in terms of global service, it should have, the AWS should have infrastructure globally, like across the globe in different countries or in different continents. It must have its infrastructure. Then only it is able to reach. I mean, AWS is able to reach different countries across the globe. Okay, suppose let's say that you are opening a sweet shop. Now, if you are opening a sweet shop, let's say you are opening the sweet shop in Hyderabad. Now, this sweet shop is limited to Hyderabad zone only, because you don't want to go beyond Hyderabad, or you don't have the manpower to go beyond Hyderabad, or let's say you want to establish in Vijayawada also. Okay, let's say you want to establish in Vijayawada also. Then what will you do? You will expand your resources to Vijayawada. Let's say you want to establish your resources to Mumbai also. Then you need to have the broader infrastructure. This is called as globally available infrastructure. Now, let's see how many number of availability zones are there across the globe and how many number of regions are there across the globe with respect to AWS. Now, here you can see. So this is actually the entire world map. So the yellow color ones, whatever yellow color ones or yellow color dotted lines, dotted circles, whatever you are seeing, that is all not available as of now. They are coming soon. You can say it as. Whatever the blue colored circles that you are seeing, they are all availability, they are all there as of now. Okay, now what are these things? Now AWS is having 26 regions across the globe. Okay, AWS is having 26 regions across the globe, and in all those 26 regions we have 84 availability zones. Okay, in 26 regions, whatever are there, so in combinedly in all those 26 regions, we have 84 availability zones, and the AWS services are across the globe with 245 countries. That means AWS is available in 245 countries across the globe. Okay, 245 countries across the globe. But as far as India is concerned, we have only one region in India. Okay, there is only one region in India. That region is basically in Mumbai. I'll talk about what is this region and availability zone in some time. But let's say that we have only one region in Mumbai. So by the end of 2023, okay, by the end of 2023, approximately you can say, by the end of 2023, there will be one more region in Hyderabad also. So then you can say that India is having two regions. Okay, one is in Mumbai and the second one is in Hyderabad. But as of now, we have only one region that is in Mumbai. Now, in the yesterday's class, when I was showing you, when you click on your name, okay, the top right side, yeah, I showed you the different regions across the globe, right? Asia Pacific, and then not the different regions, the Southeast, and then the Bahrain, these things, UAE, all these regions I have shown you, right? So these are the regions. These are called as regions. Now let's talk in a much detail about the regions and availability zones. So first thing here. So region is basically any physical location. So region is basically a physical location that is available in a city or in a country. So region is basically a physical location. You can see region is available in a specific city or in a state. Okay, specific city or in a state. Now in our country, we have one region which is in Mumbai. Okay, this is the first. Now, inside region, let's say this is the Mumbai city. This is the Mumbai city, which I am going to call it as a region. Now, inside the region, you have the availability zones. You have the availability zones. Let's say availability zone 1, availability zone 2, and availability zone 3. Okay. We have availability zones. Now, inside these availability zones, let me write here. So inside these availability zones, you will have the data centers. So inside these availability zones, you will have the data centers. Now, what is this availability zone? What is this region? And what is this data center? Let's talk about each one of these individually now. So first, let us talk about the region. So as I said earlier, region is basically a geographical area. Technically, it is a city in a particular location. Okay, it is a city in a particular location. Now here you can see the different regions across the globe. So as far as Mumbai is concerned, you can see here Mumbai region. Okay, Mumbai is actually one region. Now similarly, you have the other regions, Cape Town, Sao Paulo, North Virginia, Ireland, London, the different regions that are available across the globe. Now what does these regions represent? Regions represent that in these locations, AWS has its own infrastructure. Okay, only in these regions, AWS will have the infrastructure. That is what a region means. So I was telling you, when you want to open a sweet shop, let's say you want to open in Hyderabad, and after 1 year, you want to expand it to different states across India. Let's say you want to expand it to Mumbai, and then you want to expand it to Tamil Nadu, and then you want to expand it to Kerala. Now, what you need to have? You need to have a physical locations. You need to have shops in all these states. So shops are nothing but here regions. So in order to maintain the infrastructure of AWS across the globe, you need to have a physical location. That location, we are going to call it as regions in terms of AWS terminology. That location, we are going to call it as regions. Now here, each region basically consists of two or more availability zones. Now let's talk about this one also. So I was telling that you want to establish a sweet shop. Let's say this is a Hyderabad. Now in Hyderabad, you will have a specific location. It is not like suppose if anybody asks you, so where will you stay? You will tell that I live in Hyderabad. Now he specifically points out that where exactly in Hyderabad. You'll say Uppal or you'll say Gachibowli or you'll say any places, any specific location. So specific location is called as an availability zone. The specific location is called as an availability zone. So basically, in any region, we have at least two availability zones. So in any region, we have at least two availability zones. So basically, in these availability zones itself, AWS maintains its infrastructure. Okay, AWS maintains its infrastructure in these availability zones only. Now, why it is minimum two? So I was telling here. So you need to have at least two availability zones. The reason for this is anywhere across the globe. AWS among all the regions that are available across the globe, AWS is having at least 2 availability zones. Okay, a maximum of 6 availability zones are there. I'll talk about where these 6 availability zones are there and where these 2 availability zones are there. Basically, AWS is having at least 2 availability zones. Now you might have a question that why it is maintaining 2, why it is maintaining 3, 4, 5, and 6, why it is not maintaining only one availability zone. I'll talk about that when we are talking about S3 concept. Okay, so as of now, you remember that AWS is having a regions. So region is basically a city or it's a geographical area. Okay, so in the region, we have 2 or more availability zones. So it is basically in availability zones, we have all the physical infrastructure that is available. Right? So a region is basically a collection of data centers. Okay, region is collectively basically a data centers. And these data centers are completely isolated from another regions. That means the data centers that are available in one region or one availability zone will not have any connection with the other data center in another region. So to understand this, let me go to this particular figure. Now let's say that this entire figure, whatever the image that you are seeing, that is all Mumbai region. Okay, that is all Mumbai region. So now in region, I said that we need to have at least 2 availability zones. But as far as Mumbai is concerned, we have 3 availability zones. Now, what is this availability zone? This is basically the availability zone. So whatever the buildings that you are seeing, this is basically the one availability zone. Let's say this is availability zone 1. Now, inside the availability zone, what will be there? Data centers will be there. These buildings are data centers. DC1, DC2, and DC3. Now, what will be there inside the data center? Inside the data centers, we'll have the physical infrastructure such as servers. So these are all servers that are available inside the data centers. So you can see the very huge buildings. Okay, these are not very small. They are very huge and they are very large in shape and they are very like kind of huge, massive scale they will be there. Now inside these data centers only, the infrastructure, whatever we are working, we are telling that cloud computing. Now everything you cannot keep it on internet only. So in order to keep the things on internet, you need to have a physical buildings. You need to have physical rooms. Now all those physical rooms are called as a data centers. Now inside these data centers only, you will have the server rooms. You will have the different storage capacities. All these things are available in the data centers. Now, I was telling that a region is basically collection of a data centers that are completely isolated from other regions. Now, let's say that this is Mumbai region. Okay, let me fine. So let's say that this is Mumbai region. Now, in Mumbai region, we have the first availability zone. I said in Mumbai region, we have 3 availability zones. Now we have availability zone 2 and then availability zone 3 also. Again, in availability zone 2, we'll have the data centers. Again, in availability zone 3, we'll again have the data centers. Okay, so all these availability zones basically are isolated from each other. Isolated means they are not going to stay close to each other. The distance between one availability zone to another availability zone in a region, in a specific region, should be at least 100 kilometers. It should be at least 100 kilometers. So the distance between one availability zone to second availability zone should be at least 100 kilometers. Remember this one, at least 100. And they are established in that way only. So each availability zone in a region is established at a distance of minimum 100 kilometers. Why it is maintaining? Suppose let's say that you are keeping all the availability zones in the same location. Okay, if you are keeping all the availability zones in the same location, suppose let's say you got earthquake in that location. Now all the availability zones, there is a chance that all the availability zones might get collapsed, or if there are any floods, huge floods, or if there is any huge amounts of destructions that is going to happen. So it has to bear certain amounts, right? It has to have some safety regulations. So in order to maintain that safety regulations or to keep away from natural disasters, availability zones will keep or will be maintained at a distance of a minimum 100 kilometers in the same region. Remember, here region doesn't change, only the
the distance between availability zones gets changed. So that is what a region is. Now, these regions, okay, inside the regions, I was telling that, I mean, inside the availability zones, I was telling that we'll have the data centers. I told you that we'll have the data centers. Now, inside these data centers, I said that you have the servers. These are the servers. Now, how will you connect these servers? In order to connect these servers, obviously, you need to have the cables. Now, these servers that are available in the data centers are connected with huge servers, huge power cables. So these are the cables which is available for one of the regions in AWS. Okay, these are the cables. So you can see the size of the cable wires itself. So these are very massive cable wires. So the servers that are available in data center 3, 2, and 1, they are all connected by using these huge cables. So that is what region is. Now let's talk about availability zone. Availability zone is basically available in a region. Okay, this is available in a region. So an availability zone is a facility that can be somewhere in a country or in a city. So it can be anywhere in the country, technically. It need not be a city, it need not be a town, it can be anywhere in the in a country. Again, it depends in in which city you are going to place, because if you are going to place in a city something, if let's say you are going to place this availability zone in Gujarat. Now, Gujarat is a state where frequent earthquakes will be there. So in such case, in such type of cities, they cannot keep these availability zones because there is a more chance of natural disasters. Now you need to avoid the natural disaster. So for that case, Mumbai is the safest place, and apart from Mumbai, Hyderabad is also one of the safest places, because in Hyderabad you never experience any kind of earthquakes or huge amount of floods will not be there. So that's the reason why they are thinking to come to Hyderabad in order to place a one more region. Okay, so they basically in availability zones, as I said earlier, we have the data centers. So in availability zones, we basically have the data centers. Now, basically in data centers, what will be there? So as I told earlier, it will have the servers and then the switches, the load balancings, the firewalls, the cables, all these things will be there inside the data center. So inside this, each building, you will have the server racks. You'll have huge amount of server racks. Now inside these server racks, you'll have the servers which are connected with cables, switches, all these things will be there. So that's what that is available in the availability zone. And here you can see an availability zone can be of several data centers. Okay. In each availability zone, you don't need to have only one data center. It can have multiple data centers. So here you can see the first data center, the second data center, and the third data center. It can have, depending upon the requirement, it can have number of data centers in a single availability zone. But if the availability zones are closer, okay, if they are close together, they are counted as one availability zone only. That means if the distance between any two availability zones is less than 100 kilometers, that even though we have two availability zones, that availability zone is considered as a single availability zone. That's what availability zone is. Now let me draw one figure to make you understand in a better way of these things. Now for that, let me open the paint and then I'll show you. Yeah. So here, what I was telling that there will be a region. Suppose let's say this is a region. Let's say this is Mumbai region. So I'll just make it as Mumbai here. Just a minute. So this is basically Mumbai region. Now in Mumbai region, what I was telling, we have availability zone. Let's say this is the first availability zone in Mumbai region. So let me give some new color. So this is the first availability zone. So basically in Mumbai region, we have three availability zones. So let me go with three availability zones. So this is the second availability zone and this is the third availability zone. Okay. So let me write the names here as availability zone 1, availability zone 2, and then availability zone 3. These are the three availability zones. Now, what will be there inside these availability zones? We'll have the data centers. So inside these availability zones, we have the data centers. Suppose let's say I am going to draw some 3 data centers are available. This is the first data center, the second one, then the third data center. Okay. So let me give the names for these also. So data center 1, data center 2, and then data center 3. These are the 3 data centers in first availability zone. Similarly, in the remaining availability zones also, let us consider we have only three data centers. So these are the availability zones, data centers in the second availability zone, and these are the data centers that are in the third availability zone. Now, what will be there inside these data centers? So inside these data centers, you will have the servers. Let's say these are the server racks, you can say. Server racks, switches, cables, all these things will be there inside the data center. So this is how you can make it as the regions and availability zones, and then the data centers in the global infrastructure of AWS. So here the red ones indicates the server rooms. You can say it as server rooms. Physical infrastructure also you can say server rooms. So inside these server rooms, however, you'll have the server racks, and then you'll have the cables, the switches, all these things will be there. So this is about the global infrastructure of AWS. So if you have any doubts up to here, you can please unmute and you can ask. Any doubts up to here? If you have any doubts,
No, sir.
please. Okay, fine. So here,
Region, availability zone, and data centers. So these things must be clear. Now let me give much more details about these regions, availability zones, and data centers. Let me go with that one. So I hope you are able to see the notepad now. So let me write few things here. So here we need to understand few things about availability zone and few things about the regions and all. Okay. Now what we are going to see is first we have the region. Okay, we have the regions, and inside the regions we'll have the availability zones, and inside the availability zones we'll have the data centers. So DCs represent data centers, and inside the data centers we'll have the physical facilities, okay, like server rooms, and then the switches, cables, all these things will be there in the physical facilities. Now here what we need to understand is the distance between, okay, the distance. Basically, let's talk with respect to the Mumbai region. Right, in Mumbai region we have 3 availability zones. That means the AWS facilities in India is having across 3 availability zones in the Mumbai region. Now, as I said earlier, availability zone is a group of isolated data centers. So one data, suppose let's say that I have, let me write this way. So let's say that availability zone 1 is there. So in availability zone 1, let's say I have data center 1, data center 2, and then data center 3. Okay. And then availability zone 2 is there. Now in availability zone 2, again you have the 3 data centers. Okay, again you have the 3 data centers. Again in availability zone 3, you have 3 more data centers. Now remember that the data centers that are available in availability zone 1 and the data centers that are available in availability zone 2 and the data centers that are available in availability zone 3, they are independent. They don't have any connection with any other availability zones. That means all these data centers in availability zone will act as a single group. All these data centers in the availability zone 2 will act as a single single entity. And then all these data centers in availability zone 3 will act as a single entity. Okay, they'll act as a single entity. So that's what you can see. Now, as far as Mumbai is concerned, we have a code for each region. Okay, AWS has given the codes. I have shown you in the last class also. So as far as Mumbai region is concerned, we have the code as Asia Pacific. The region code is Asia Pacific. So in shortcuts, we call it as AP. Right? Asia Pacific. Now again in Asia Pacific, I said that in Mumbai region we have three availability zones. Okay, three availability zones are there. So AP hyphen South hyphen 1A. This is the first availability zone code. This is the availability zone code. And then for the second availability zone, the code is Asia hyphen AP hyphen South hyphen 1B. 1B. And for third availability zone, the code is AP hyphen South hyphen 1C. 1A represents first availability zone, 1B represents second availability zone, and 1C represents the third availability zone. Let me write here also. So second availability zone and then the first availability zone. So these are the three availability zones that are available in Mumbai region. So that's how it is getting divided. So remember for each availability zone, we have the code, right? So since we are in Asia Pacific, the code is AP. Okay, likewise, we have the Northwest also, Northeast also. I'll show you once again, I'll show you in the AWS console. You can have a look there. But what you have to remember is in Mumbai region, we have three availability zones that you remember. Now, the second thing which we have to focus is, as I was telling that in AWS, we have almost 200 plus services are available, and all these 200 plus services are not available in all regions. Let's see, what I'm telling is, we were telling that 250 plus services are available in AWS, are available in AWS. Now, what you have to remember is all these 250 plus services are not available in all the availability zones, sorry, all the availability regions across the globe. Okay, well, that's one thing which you have to focus. So all the services that are available in AWS, so they may not be available in all the regions. So it changes from one region to another region. Suppose let's say that the services that are available in Mumbai region, they may not be available in North Virginia region. Just an example case. So North Virginia region. So that's possible also. So why it is happening? It is because maybe that particular region is not completely established or well established. So because of that case, the 250 plus services that are available in AWS, they are not available. All the services, let's make it this way. All the services are not available, may not be available. You can say it as may not be available in all regions. That's what it says. So all the 250 plus services may not be available in all the regions. Now you might have a doubt. Let's say that in Mumbai region, we don't have the service called S3. We don't have an access to a service called S3 in Mumbai region. Okay, it is there, but just for an example case, let us consider that. So you are working with Mumbai and you want to use a service called S3. Now you found that S3 service is not available in Mumbai region. Now in this case, what you are going to do, you are going to change the region in AWS console, and then you can work, no problem. Okay, you can work by changing the region. Now, if you ask me, will there be any problem if I change the region? I would say no, you don't find any problem there. But one thing which you will face is latency issues will come. Latency issues will come. I'll talk about this latency issues in some time, but let us consider that latency issues will be there if you change the region. Now, what are these latency issues? I'll talk in some time. But remember, you can work in any region. You don't have any problem except the latency issues. Okay, I'll talk about latency issues in some time. Now, the few other factors which are important is, suppose if new service is released, okay, if any new service is released in AWS, let me write this. If a new service is released in AWS, what it happens is it will not launch in all the available all the regions. That's one thing for sure. So whenever a new service is released in AWS or released by AWS, it will not be available in all the regions across the globe. First, it will select few regions. Okay, first it will select few regions, and then it will launch only in those regions. Only after successful implementation in the regions, then only it will be distributed to the remaining regions. Okay, that you remember. But how will you identify whether a new service is available or not? That we don't need to bother, because AWS will notify you. Okay, whenever a new service is available, AWS will keep you notified. So you don't need to bother. But what you have to remember here is, whenever a new service is released by AWS, it will not release the new service in all the available, in all the regions. It will release the service only in specific regions, and after successful implementation in those specific regions, then only it will implement in other regions. The best example for this is, let's say that you want to, let's say a medico company is there, or a pharma company is there. If it wants to prepare a new drug or a new tablet, now it will not give directly to patients. I mean, doctors will not prescribe directly to patients. First, they will test on rats. That's what COVID vaccine has also come. First, they tested on animals, and after testing on animals, then they tested on humans, very few selected humans. Now, when they are testing humans, they'll take the consent. So even if something happens to that particular human, we are not responsible. That's the consent they will take. So only after testing on few selected people, then only it will be available in the market. The same thing applies here also. So whenever a new service is released by AWS, it will not release to public directly. It will release first to a group of regions. After that only it will be available for all the regions. That's the thing. And as far as our country is concerned, okay, so suppose let's say that how to know whether a new service is released in AWS or not, right? How to know? Now, in order to know whether a new service is released in AWS or not, you, the first time whenever a new service gets launched by AWS, it will launch in Singapore region. Okay, this is the closest one for India. Singapore is basically the closest country to India, and that's the reason if you want to find any new service, whether a new service is available in AWS or not, you have to select the Singapore region. So as far as Indian continent or Asia Pacific continent is concerned, so the new services will first be launched in Singapore region. Okay, the new services will first be launched in Singapore region. Why it is choosing Singapore region? Because Singapore is the oldest region. Okay, Singapore is the oldest region. How long it is? It is almost 12 years old. So Singapore region was established in the year 2010. Okay, Singapore region was established in 2010, but whereas Mumbai region was established in the year 2016. Okay, 2016. Mumbai region was established in the 2016. So that's the reason why they'll release the first service or a new service in the oldest region, that is Singapore, because all the facilities will be there in the Singapore region, and that's the reason why they are releasing a new service first in Singapore, and then they'll distribute to the remaining regions. So the Singapore is the oldest region, which is established in 2010, not the AWS oldest region, Asia Pacific oldest region. So if you take Asia Pacific, 2010 is the first region where Singapore is established. Okay, now if you talk globally, which is the first region that was launched by AWS, that region is called as North Virginia. So North Virginia is the very first region which was developed by AWS. So that is developed in the year, that was established in the year 2006. So this is basically, you can call it as first region in the world. First region in the world. Okay. Now here also, if any new service is not available in our region, we have to select our nearest region. So as far as India is concerned, the nearest region is Singapore region. So you can go there and you can check the Singapore region. Now when I say you can go there, that doesn't mean you have to go to Singapore. You just have to select the region as Singapore in AWS console. I'll show you that anyway. So as of now, we have some 29 to 30 regions that are available, and by the end of 2023, we'll get some 29 or 30 regions. I cannot tell the exact number, but you can make it as 29. Okay, 29. And then 84 and 85 availability zones are available. 84 or 85 availability zones are available. Now, any region, okay, any region, as I said earlier, will have at least 3 availability zones. So any region will have at least 3 availability zones and a maximum of 6 availability zones. And again, this number is not a fixed number, but as of today, okay, as of today, the maximum availability zones in a single region is 6. So I'll tell you which region is that. So 6 availability zones are available in North Virginia. Okay. So in this region, we have 6 availability zones. That's the maximum as of now. Okay. Highest you can say. That's the maximum as of till date. So in maybe in future they might increase to 7 or 8 also. So at that time it will get changed. Okay. And the second reason, I mean, second thing which I want to focus here is China is basically having a dedicated region only for Chinese. China is having a dedicated region. Nobody can enter China region, and nobody can come out of the China region. So even when I'll show you the AWS region, you will not see China there. Okay, so only when you are working in China or when you are available in China, physically when you are available in China, then only you will be able to see the China region. Now, when you are seeing China region, you will not be able to see any other regions. So China is having a dedicated region, right? China is having a dedicated region. And remember, no other region can access China region. No other region can access China region. Okay. So that's about the few details with respect to the availability zones, regions, and data centers. Now let's talk few more things here. Now let us not talk much about the regions and availability zones. What I would like to talk about is I was telling that availability zones are there. Let's take availability zone 1. Let's take that in availability zone 1, we have data centers. So data center 1, data center 2, and data center 3. These are the 3 data centers. Now, what you have to remember is the distance between, okay, the distance between each data center should be at least 100 kilometers. Okay, the distance between each, not data center, availability zone, sorry. The distance between, the distance between 2 availability zones should be minimum of 100 kilometers. This is what AWS has specified. Okay, it may be less than that, it can be greater than that, but AWS is maintaining that at least 100 kilometers should be there between 2 availabilities. Why? It is because to avoid any natural calamities or to maintain safety from natural disasters, these availability zones are placed at a distance of 100 kilometers. That's the reason why they are maintaining at a 100 kilometers distance. Now, let's talk about the data centers now. Okay, I was telling that data centers, right? So as I was telling, in data centers, you'll have the, sorry. So in data centers, you'll have the, let's say first data center. In data centers, you'll have the servers. Okay, you'll have the servers. Now, to maintain servers, okay, to maintain servers, so it requires huge amount of efforts. Okay, to maintain a data center, basically, let's say to maintain a data center, it costs approximately 10 lakh rupees. Okay, 10 lakhs per annum, per month. Okay, approximately 10 lakhs per month is required. Now you can see the importance of data center here. How much amount is being invested just to maintain the data center. Okay, just to maintain the data center per month, it needs 10 lakh rupees. Now you might have a doubt that why it is required 10 lakh rupees. It is because suppose let's say that you have the data center. Let's say you are working in a software company. Forget about data centers and all. Let's say you are working in a software company. Okay. Now, when you are working in a software company, obviously you will be given with systems or personal computers you will be given. Now, let's say that some 10,000 employees are available. Okay, is it 10,000? Okay, it is. Okay, 1 lakh. 1 lakh employees are available. Now, for 1 lakh employees, obviously you need 1 lakh systems. That's for sure. Or at least maybe if you can reduce 1,000 systems, let's say it has 90,000 systems are required. 90,000 systems are required. 90,000 PCs are required. Now, to maintain all these 90,000 PCs, we need to give connections, right? We need to give switches and then cabins, the power system, power supply, and then the air conditioning system. All these things are required. So, to maintain all these things, it is costing you 10 lakh rupees per month. This is just with respect to the software company. Now, inside the data center, I have shown you one figure. Inside data center, you'll have huge number of servers. A huge number of servers are available in data centers. In data centers, huge number of servers are available. Now, when they are having huge number of servers, obviously it produces huge amounts of heat. So even when you plug in your laptop and if you keep it for some time, let's say for 1 hour, if you are just charging your laptop, even your laptop also should get will get heated away. Okay, it will get heat. So now to cool that, you need to have a cooling system. So because of all these reasons, it is taking, I mean, it is costing you 10 lakhs per month for AWS, not you, 10 lakhs per month for AWS. Okay, so that's about the AWS global infrastructure. And let me finish with one last statement, which is the largest site in the largest site available in AWS is North Virginia. This is the largest site, okay, which was having 6 availability zones. Okay, which is having 6 availability zones and which is established in the year 2010. And the smallest site, okay, the smallest site available in AWS. Let me copy this entire thing. So the smallest site that is available in AWS is Osaka. Okay, that's the smallest site. OSACA. Osaka is the smallest site, and it is having just one availability zone. So because of its limitation in that particular country or in that particular region, we have only one availability zone. So we don't have the data when it is exactly established. The Osaka region, when it get established, we don't have the exact data regarding that. But this is the largest and smallest site in the AWS global infrastructure. So this is all about the introduction towards the AWS global infrastructure. So if you have any doubt, you can please unmute and you can ask. So if you don't have any doubt, we'll proceed to the next one. So am I clear as of now, regarding the availability zones, the data centers and all? If you have any doubts, please, you can unmute and you can ask. Yeah.
No doubt, sir.
Okay, fine. Fine then. So now let's work with the concept of S3. Okay, that's the first service which we are going to talk. And the next 1 week to, so not 1 week, 10 days, 10 to 14 days, approximately 2 weeks, you can say. Next 10 days to 14 days, we'll be working on this service called S3. Okay, we'll be working on the service called S3. So before I take you how I take you to the S3 service, first let me tell you a brief details about S3. So the S3, okay. So S3 expands to simple storage service. Simple storage service. So by the name itself, it is able, I mean, you can able to define that it is basically a storage service. That means if you want to store any data in AWS, you can use the service called S3. Okay, you can use the service called S3. So that's why it is called as a simple storage service. So it's one of the services of AWS which is useful to store some data or to store any amount of data. And remember, this is the second service which was launched by AWS. The second service by AWS, which was launched by AWS. So this is the second service, basically in the year 2006. So in the year 2006, this was the first service. I mean, this was the second service which was launched by AWS, and the specific date is March 14, I guess, 14 or 15. So if I'm not wrong, it would be 14. You can have a cross check here. So it should be 14 if I'm not wrong. So anyways, so can somebody tell me what is the first service that was launched by AWS? What is the first service that was launched by AWS? Can somebody tell? We had a discussion that in the last class itself. When I was talking about no
EC2.
no SQS. So in the 2004, that was when I was talking about the history of AWS. I told that SQS is the first service which was launched in the year 2004. Okay, before AWS was launched. So in 2006, AWS was launched. So before 2006, what happened was there was a documentation. Okay, documentation was there. And after the documentation has got formed in the year 2004, they just had a trial with SQS service. And then in 2006, officially AWS is launched. And as soon as AWS is launched, S3 was the first service after launching the AWS. So AWS was launched in the year 2006. And as soon as AWS was launched, S3 was also launched at that time itself. Okay. Now, when somebody asks you what is the first service that was launched by AWS, that is not that is not S3, that is actually SQS. So SQ was the first service which was launched by AWS in the year 2004, and S3 is the second service which was launched by AWS in the year 2006. Here SQS is nothing but simple queue service. Simple queue service. This was the first service which was launched by AWS. Now let us have a discussion regarding this regarding this S3. Okay, we don't talk about simple queue service as of now. We'll be talking about S3 from now on. So first, let me go to this particular aspect, and then yeah. So this is what the S3 logo is. So even if you check the AWS, so this is how S3 logo appears. Okay, so before I talk the introduction towards the S3 service, let me show you what I am going to cover in the entire S3 concept. Okay, so these are the 19 concepts which I am going to cover in the entire sorry. So these are the 19 services or 19 topics which I am going to cover in S3 services. Okay, so you can if you want, you can take a snapshot of this one. So if I miss covering any of the topics, you can remind me once I say that S3 service is completed as of till date. So then you can remind me if I miss anyone. Fine. So we'll come in this order only. Whatever the order that you are seeing here, in the same order we are going to come up. Okay, fine. So now let us talk about the introduction towards S3. Okay, let us talk about introduction towards S3. Now, as I was telling, S3 is basically a service which is used to store any amount of data or to store certain amount of data. So S3 is called as simple storage service. So S3 is the simple storage service. So basically this is used to store data. It can be of any data. It can be a PDF files, it can be a Word files, it can be of documents, or it can be of image files, anything. So you can store any data, any type of data in S3. Okay. Now, first, let us understand few things before I talk about S3. Suppose let's say that you have a mobile phone. Okay, let's say you have the mobile phone, and let's say that the maximum capacity of mobile phone is 128 GB. This is the maximum storage capacity. Now, let's say that after using for 2 years or 3 years, okay, let's say after 3 years, all the data that is, all the storage capacity that is available in your mobile phone is completely utilized. Okay, it is filled with movies, it is filled with the videos, pictures, any data, some data, it is completely utilized. That means you don't have any additional space to store the data. The entire 128 GB is completely consumed by the files that you have already stored. Now, let's say that since the entire data is completely stored or completely utilized, now on one day, okay, on one particular day, you want to save a file. Let's say your boss has sent you one file through WhatsApp, and this file is having a size of, let's say, 15 MB is the size which is having which the file is having. Okay, the file is having a size of 15 MB. Now, can you download this file? Is it possible to download, and is it possible to save this file in your mobile phone, which is completely utilized with storage capacity? No, it is not possible, because you don't have any additional space to store this 15 MB file, right? You don't have any additional space to store this 15 MB file. Now, in this case, what you have to do, you might have three options. Okay, possibly three options. As for according to me, you will have three options. Now, let's take case one. So, in the first case, what you will do, you will delete some unwanted files. Okay, if there are any unwanted files are there, or if you have any unwanted apps that are available, you will uninstall those apps, or you will delete any pics or the videos or the documents that are there. That's the first case. So now when you are deleting, what actually happens, what actually is happening, you are losing some data. Data loss is happening. So let me write it as data loss. So you are losing some data. So that is called as data loss. Now, the second option, let's take the second option. Now, you don't want to lose the data, or you don't want to, data loss should not happen. That's what you're feeling. Now, what you will do, you will take the backup. Now, how you will take the backup of the data? By using external devices. Maybe you can use pen drive, or you can use hard disk, and whatever data that you don't want to delete, you will copy that data into the external devices. Now again here what is happening? Let's say that you have copied some image file, some 10 image files you have copied to external storage device. Let's say it is pen drive. Now after some days you want to see all these 10 files. Okay, you want just for a review, let's uh, just for recreational purposes, you want to see all these images. Now what you have to do? Again, you have to connect your pen drive to laptop, or to the mobile phone, or to the TV, and then you have to see. Now here what is happening? Here data loss is not happening, but something called data availability is not there. Okay, whenever you want to access the data, okay, that availability is not there. So here has become a problem. So the data is not available at an immediate phase. So now since the data is available in pen drive, you cannot access it immediately. Again, you have to connect to some device. Okay, be it laptop or system or the mobile phone or the TV. So you need to have some additional device. So here availability has become a problem. Now let's take the case 3 also. Now in case 3, what happens is, let's say if you don't have these external devices. Okay, let's say you don't have these external devices. That means you don't have the pen drive, or you don't have the hard disk. So these are just simple images of pen drives and hard disk, which I'll draw on my own. So let's say you don't have these external devices. Now what will you do? When you don't have the external devices, you will try to upload the files in Google Drive. This is one possible way. So you'll try to upload the files in Google Drive. Now, when you are uploading the files in Google Drive, two things will happen. Okay, two things will happen. The first case is your Google Drive storage capacity is being utilized. Okay, your Google Drive storage capacity is being utilized. And the second thing is security will come into picture. The data security will come into picture. Now, if by mistake, if anybody has got a chance to access your Google Drive, then all the sensitive files which you have stored in Google Drive, they can access. So here what is happening? Security issues are coming into picture, and then the storage capacity is coming into picture. Now, in this case, you have the alternate option in the cloud, which is called as S3. Okay, so in S3, when you are working with S3, you have three advantages. Okay, the first advantage is called as scalability. The first advantage is called as scalability, and the second advantage is called as availability. Second advantage is called as availability, and the third advantage is called as let's say you can make it as a latency. Okay, latency. I'll talk about latency in some time. Okay. Now, what is the scalability? Now, when I was talking about mobile phone, I said that 128 GB is completely consumed. Either you have to delete the files or backup the files or store in Google Drive. Now, when you store in S3, you can store any amount of data. There is no restriction with the data storage. Okay, there is no storage limit. So basically, you don't have any storage limit. So that's called scalability. Okay, there is in sorry. Yeah. So you don't have any storage limit in S3 bucket. You can store any file size starting from 0 bytes to petabytes. So starting from 0 bytes to petabytes, you can store. And that's why it is called as scalable. You can easily change the storage capacity of your S3 disk or your S3 service. But here what you have to remember is the charges are applicable. So beyond a certain limit, the charges are applicable. Remember this one, the charges are applicable. How much charges it is applicable, that I'll talk in some time. So that's called as scalability. And the next one is called as availability. So now when I was talking about taking the things, I mean storing back, taking the backup of data in external devices, here you will have an availability issues will come into picture. But when you store any data in S3 bucket or in S3 service, you don't have any problem of availability. Any time whenever you want to store the data, it will be available readily for you. Just the thing is, you need to log into your AWS account and then you need to open the files that are required. So availability will not become a problem here. Okay, so there is a chance that suppose let's say that in the external devices, whatever you are using, let's say you are using some pen drives or hard disk. Now there is a chance of these pen drives or hard disks will get corrupted. Now in that case, what will happen? Again, you cannot get back the data. But here you don't face that problem. That problem is called as latency. So that problem is called as latency. That means data loss will not happen here. Data loss will not happen here. So before I talk about latency in much details, let me have few more points under availability. Now, what is this availability? So you can consider this availability with respect to the availability zones. Okay. Now I said that in Mumbai region, you have three availability zones: availability zone 1, availability zone 2, availability zone 3. Okay. Now I was also telling that here the data loss also will not happen. There is a chance that in external devices the data loss will happen. Now I need to have a proof how the data loss is not going to happen. The reason for that is, as I said, in availability zones you have the data centers. Okay, in availability zones you have the data centers, and again in data centers you'll have the servers. Okay, again in data centers you'll have the servers. Now in the file or whatever the file that you are uploading, let's say that you are working in Mumbai region. Okay, let's make it as Mumbai. Let's say that you are working in Mumbai region. Now, when you are working in Mumbai region, what happens is, let's say that you are using the service called S3. Okay, let's say you are using the service called S3. Now, by using S3, you have uploaded, let's say one file you have uploaded. Let's say one file you have uploaded. Now, you feel that suppose by chance if anything happens to the availability zone, this file might get deleted. That's quite common. Let's say that on one particular day this availability zone has completely collapsed because of some natural disasters. Now in that case, what will you do? You cannot get back the data because you have uploaded in the AWS feeling that your data is secure and safe. But if the availability zone itself is getting destructed, you don't get any data that is available in the availability zone 1. So to avoid this case, what does AWS does is, every time when you upload a file into S3 bucket, let's say this is the main copy of your uploaded file. Let's say it is the main copy. Now what does AWS does is, AWS will store this copy in all the availability zones. Okay, AWS will store the copy in all the available. Technically, this you cannot see with your eye. Okay, this entire thing will happen in the back end. Okay, you will not access. Okay, you cannot access also. This will be available in the back end process. So technically, whenever file in AWS S3, that means whenever you store one file in AWS S3, all the files, whatever you are uploading in AWS S3, one copy will be there in each availability zone. Now let's say that availability zone 1 has got completely collapsed. Now you have the file that is already available in remaining availability zones. So now AWS, suppose let's say that you have stored a file called file.txt. This is the file which you have stored. Now what does AWS does? AWS has stored first copy here, second copy here, and third copy here based on the availability zones. Since in Mumbai region we have 3 availability zones, it will store 3 copies. If you have 6 availability zones, it will store 6 copies. Okay, so in each availability zone, 1 copy will be there. Now let's say that availability zone 1 has got collapsed. Now you by some chance you asked the AWS that I want to download this file. I want to download the file called file.txt. Now since availability zone 1, now what does AWS does? Suppose let's say a user is there and user wants to access this file.txt. Now you open that you open your bucket and then you click on the file. Now what does AWS does is, AWS will check for the file in which availability zone file is available. Now first it will check for availability zone 1. If it is there in availability zone 1, it will send you the download link. Okay, you can download that. Once as soon as you click the download, your file will get downloaded. If the file is not available in availability zone 1, then AWS will send the request to second availability zone. It will search in the second availability zone. So if it is there in the second availability zone, it will send you directly to download. Suppose let's say that availability zone 2 also has got collapsed because of some reasons. Now AWS will send the request to third availability zone. Okay, AWS will send the request to third availability zone, and then you can take the things. Now you might have a question: what if all the three availability zones gets collapsed? Now till now it has not happened in the AWS history. Okay, till now not even one availability zone has also not collapsed. They might have a downtime, but they never got collapsed. Downtime in the sense, for some duration it might not have worked because of some network issues or some issues, it might not have worked. But till now in the history of AWS, there was no availability zone which has got destructed because of natural calamities. So that's the availability factor. Okay, and the next factor is latency. Latency is nothing but basically we have two types of storage capacities. One is called as HDD, hard disk drives, and the second one is called as SSD drives. Okay, so basically HDD drives, okay, HDD drives are low cost and these are high cost. SSD drives are high cost. Now nowadays all the laptops are coming with SSD drives only because the data transfer will happen at a faster rate here in SSD drives. Though they are costly, people are willing to buy the laptops which are having SSD drives, and AWS will also function on this only. So the function of AWS is completely dependent on SSD drives only, not the HDD drives. Okay, though they are low cost, the HDDs are low cost, the data transfer is very slow here, and that's called as latency. Okay, that's called as latency. That's about a simple introduction towards the AWS S3. Now, before I take you to the concepts of AWS S3, let me tell you few more points here. Fine. So let me tell you a few more points. Now, since you are using AWS free account, okay, we are all using free tier account only. Now, how much storage capacity it will give? So in S3, by using free tier account, okay, by using free tier account, you can store 5 GB of storage capacity. Okay, by using free tier account, you can store 5 GB of storage capacity. So beyond 5 GB, AWS will charge you. Okay, how much ever you are using, it will charge you. So that's one thing. So AWS will give you 5 GB of storage capacity. Now, when you are working with S3, you need to remember two concepts. One is called as buckets. One is called as buckets, and the second one is called as objects. The buckets and objects. Here, bucket is simply called as a folder. Now, in your system, if you just right click on your mouse and then create new folder, you will create a folder. Okay, so in AWS terminology, the same folder is called as bucket. Okay, so the other name in AWS terminology of folder is bucket. Okay, whenever we talk in AWS terminology, I'll call it as bucket only. I don't call it as folder. Now, whatever the files that you are storing in the folder, whatever the files that you are storing in the folder, all those files are called as objects. Okay, all the files that you are storing in the folder are called as objects. So technically, buckets are called as folders, and objects are the things that are stored in buckets. Okay, but with respect to the free tier account, you can create 100 buckets in AWS account. Okay, so for each AWS account, you can make it 100 buckets per account. Sorry, 100 buckets per account. You cannot create more than that. And there is no limitation with respect to the objects. Okay, you can store any number of files. Make sure that these files should not exceed 5 GB storage capacity. If it exceeds 5 GB, then you have to pay the amount. Okay, so that's what these are the two things which you have to remember. So buckets and objects. So now buckets will have owner and objects also will have owner. So buckets will have owner and objects will have owner. So whoever is creating the bucket, okay, whoever is creating the bucket, obviously the same person will be the owner for the files also that are available in bucket. That's again a different thing. So anyways, I'll talk about that with respect to the practical demo. So I guess the next 15 minutes it is going to take. So once I'll complete the practical demo, then I'll close this session. So now let us go to S3 console. Fine. So before I go to S3 console, if anybody is having any doubts with respect to S3 introduction, you can talk about. You can unmute and you can talk. So any doubts with respect to AWS? I mean S3 introduction.
No,
So I
sir.
hope. Okay, fine. So now I'm going to AWS console. So this is the AWS console. You just log into AWS and then you just log into AWS and then you'll get this console, right? So once you get this console, since we are working with S3, that's the concept which we are working. Fine. Before you start working with S3, let me show you. So this is the bucket. This is the logo of the bucket and this is the logo of buckets with objects. So the circle, square and triangle, these are just the representations. So these are called as objects in the bucket. Okay. So fine. I'll just go to S3. So now since we are trying to work with S3, so I'll just type S3 here in the search box and then click S3 here. Or you can also search the service by clicking on services. Now S3 is a storage service. Okay, now scroll down to storage and if you click here, again you will see the storage service. I mean S3 option. Fine. So here, this is the S3 console. Okay, you can see on the top also S3 management console. So this is all S3 console. Now here, what we are going to do is first thing, I'll just write few things here. So what kind of work I'm going to do in S3? So with respect to S3, what I'll do is first I'll create a bucket. Sorry. So first I'll create a bucket. Now after creating the bucket, in the next step, what I'll do is I will upload an object into the bucket. That means file. Okay. So I'll upload an object into the bucket. And after uploading the object into the bucket, what I'll do is I'll try to download it. I'll try to download it, download the object. And then suppose let's say that in the bucket which I'm working, I have uploaded a file. Load. So I have uploaded a file. Now I want to share this file to some other person. So that means sharing of object. Sharing of object. So these are the 4 tasks which I am going to do. So basically this is called as a public URL. Okay. I'll show you that. Before that, let me call it as sharing of object for your understanding. Now, when you are creating a bucket, make sure the bucket name must be globally unique name. Globally unique means that name should not be available in the entire AWS service, in the entire AWS account. So in AWS, we have multiple accounts in multiple regions. Any people can use AWS, right? So whatever the bucket that you are creating, that bucket name, okay, must be globally unique. Suppose if you are creating a folder in your laptop, you can create multiple folders with the same name. Okay. Sorry. So you can create multiple folders with the same name. But with respect to AWS, the bucket name must be globally unique. Yeah, I'll tell you why why it should be globally unique. But remember, the bucket name must be globally unique. That's the first thing. Fine. Now I'll go to S3 console. Okay, here, this is what S3 console. And if you click here in the left pane, buckets, you can see, just click on that. So then you will be able to see this one. Okay, then you will be able to see this one. Now, what is the first thing? We are going to create a bucket here. Okay, that's the first task. Let us create a bucket here. So that's the first thing. So now, in order to create a bucket, just click on create bucket. So before I click this one, you can see there is already one bucket that is available in my S3 account. So you can see this is the bucket name. So something I have kept for my work case. So forget about this one. So if there are any buckets that are available, it will show you the number, how many buckets are available. Since I have only one bucket, it is showing it as 1. If you don't have any buckets, it will show you as 0. Okay. So now let us create the bucket. Now in order to create the bucket, just click create bucket. So just click create bucket. Yeah. So this is the create bucket console. Now here you can see buckets are containers for data stored in S3. So buckets are basically the containers where you can store the data by using the service called S3. Now, basic details you have to provide here. What are those basic details? The first one is bucket name. Sorry. So first one is bucket name. Now I said that bucket name must be unique. So here you can see bucket name must be globally unique and must not contain spaces or uppercase letters. So it should not contain spaces or uppercase letters. So suppose let's say that I am going to create a bucket which is with the name Castro. Okay. So there should not be any uppercase letters and there should not be any space. Let's say if I'm creating it as Castro space Kiran, it will not take, it will show you the error. You can try that. Now what I'll do is I'll just make it as Castro hyphen today's date I'll keep 08 September hyphen demo. I'll just keep it as. Now here you can see AWS region. So by default it will select you the Mumbai region because you are working in Mumbai region only. Okay, and then choose bucket. This I don't talk as of now. And then object ownership. Okay, object ownership. Now what is this object ownership? Object ownership is nothing but whom you want to give permission or whom you want to make as owner to the objects that you are uploading in the buckets. So for this, I'll talk the details about this one in some other classes. I mean the next class probably. So as of now, what I'll do is I'll choose this option ACLs enabled. ACL is nothing but access control list. So ACL is nothing but access control list. Whom you want to give access. So that is called as ACL. Now for time being, I'll just enable this one access control list and then I'll go to this one block public access settings. So here I said, so if you the fourth task of ours is we want to share the data. So this one to make it visible to all the people. Now here what I am doing is I am not going to do any changes here. Okay, after that I'll do some changes and then I'll make it visible for all the people. So now I'm not going to change anything here. I'll keep the default settings and then the bucket versioning also I'm not going to talk. The encryption also I'm not going to talk. And then just click create bucket. Okay, just click create bucket. So it has shown you some error. Bucket name must not contain uppercase. Okay, here I have given uppercase letters. CPT demo. So I'll just click create bucket. So once after the bucket is created, you will see a green color logo. Yeah, successfully created the bucket with this name, Castro 08 September demo. Now you can also see number of buckets are 2. Earlier it was 1. Now we have created 1 bucket. So you can see this is the bucket. So basically this is the folder. And you can also see in which region this bucket is available. The bucket is available in Asia Pacific Mumbai region. Okay, Asia Pacific Mumbai region. And if you want to see the few other details when this bucket is created, September 8th, 2048. That means 8:48 you can say 8:48 39 seconds. So this is the data that is related to the bucket. Now what I have to do, I want to upload some data. That's the first task. So first task is we have to create the data. So I have created the data by using default settings, except I have chosen ACL as enabled. Okay, I have enabled this one. I'll talk about this ACL enabled option in the next class, but as of now, I have just enabled this one. Okay. Now the second task is we have to upload some data into it. Now let me upload some data. Now to upload some data into the bucket, click on this bucket name. Okay, just click on this bucket name. Now it will take you to inside the bucket. Now inside the bucket, we have to upload the objects. Now how many objects are there? There are no objects. That's why I am able to see 0. Now we want to upload the objects here. Now since you want to upload the objects, you can click on this green color, orange color one, upload, or you can also click here, the down one, upload. So you can click anything. Now once you click upload, it will ask you to upload 2 kinds of details. One is, are you willing to upload a file or are you willing to upload a folder itself? Okay, so I'll show you that. So just click on upload. Now here you can see add files and add folder. If you want to directly add the folders, just click add folders. If you want to add only files, just click add files. Now I want to add only one file. I'll just click add files here. Okay, just click add files and it will take you to your system. So whatever the file that you want to upload, just select that file. Now for time being, what I select is I'll select any one particular image file, which will be convenient for us. Just give me a second. I'll just upload any one file. Fine. Suppose let's say this is the thing which I am going to upload, this file. Okay, you can see the name of the file is CSC internships hyphen civil I mean underscore civil. I'll just click open. Now here you can see few details. So in which destination the file is uploaded? This is the destination in S3 service in the bucket called Castro-08 September-demo. Now click upload. Don't worry about the remaining details, the destination details, the permissions, properties, all these things you don't worry. Just keep the as it is details and just click upload. Now once you click upload, again it will show you the notification once after the files are uploaded. So you can see the notification uploaded successfully. Now you can also see the files that are uploaded. So the objects technically. So you can see one object is being uploaded. So that's the second thing. So our second task is to upload the object. Now let us see whether we can download this object or not. So in order to download this one, just check this cell box. Okay, just check this one and then click download. Okay, click download. So if you download, yes, you can see the data. The data is getting downloaded. So let me open this file. Yeah, so this is the file which I have downloaded just now. Now I want to share this particular file to you. Let's say I want to share this file to all of you. Now how to do that? That's our next task. So sharing of object, which is basically done by using public URL. Now in order to share the file, now what happens is for any object that you are uploading into the bucket, okay, for any object that you are uploading into the bucket, it will have an URL. Okay, it will have an URL. It will have a link. Now, in order to see that link, what you have to do is check this bucket. I mean, check this object, or you can also click this object. You will see public URL. Okay, you can see, yeah, object URL. Now, what I'll do is I'll just copy this URL. Okay, just click this one, or you can directly select this entire thing and Control C, Control V. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll just copy this URL and I'll go to the new tab. Okay, I'll go to the new tab where I did not logged in with my AWS account. I'll just paste that URL, Control V, and then click enter. Now, can somebody tell me if I click enter, will I be able to see this file or not? That you tell me. Can somebody answer?
Yes.
Yes, fine. So let's click enter here. So I'm just clicking enter here. You'll see option this one. So error code. Why this error code is coming? Because you have not given permission to access only this account, this AWS account, that is Castro underscore civil edu. This account is having the access and nobody else is having the access. So by default, whatever the files that you are creating in S3, they all will be in private mode. They don't be available publicly until or unless you are giving public access, then only the files are available. Okay, now what we'll do, we'll give the public access to the files. Okay, let's make it as public access 4.1 public access. So I'm going to give public access to the files. Okay, so as of now, I have not given any public access. That's why I'm not able to see the file here. It is showing error code. Now let's go with how to give public access to the files. Now in order to give the public access to the files, go to the bucket. So here you can see buckets, and then select select the bucket whichever you want to give. Open that bucket. So now here you want to give public access to this particular file. Okay, CSC internships underscore civil edu. That's the file. Now here what happens is if you click this one, okay, if you click this one, it will show you the object URL. Okay, it will show you the object URL. Now this object URL I have to make it as public. Now in order to make this object URL public, what I will do is I'll just go to the bucket. Okay, once again, and then I'll open this one. Okay, I'm just repeating the same steps. Now here what I'll do is you can see an option called object actions. So here you can see object actions. Now click this one. Okay, click this one. Now here you will see an option called make public using ACL. You can see this one, make public using ACL. Now when I was creating the bucket, I said that I am going to enable ACL. Okay. Now, if you don't enable the ACL there, what happens is here you will not be able to select this option. That's the reason why I have enabled that. I want to give permission to somebody. So that's the reason I have enabled there. I hope now it is clear why I have enabled the ACL option there. Now, if you don't want to share any data to the to any person, now you can disable that. Again, whenever you want, you can enable that option. We have that feature. But as of now, since I want to share the data to people, I just enabled the ACL when I was creating the bucket. Now what you'll do is select this option. Click on make public using ACL. Make public using ACL. Now here you can see one warning image. You can see public access is blocked because public access settings are turned on for this bucket. That means you don't want to give any public access, and that public access is turned on for this bucket. So in order to give the public access, you have to turn off this public access. Now, in order to turn off this public access, what you have to do is, now again, let's go back to the bucket. Let's go back to the bucket and then click on the buckets. I mean, click on the object and then go to permissions. You want to give permission, right? Public access permissions. Click on these permissions, and here you can see block public access. We have blocked this one. You can see block public access is on. Can you see on? So now we have to turn off that. Now, in order to turn off this public access, just click edit. Now you just uncheck this one. So if it is checked, that means the public access is blocked. If it is unchecked, that means public access is on now. Okay? Now the people can access this file. Now remember, I am keeping this tab as it is. Now after some time, I'll reload it once I give public access. Then I should be able to see this particular image. That's the reason why I am not closing this tab. Okay, fine. So now I have unchecked this block all public access and then click save changes. Yeah, so it will ask you for the confirmation whether you really want to give public access or not. So just copy this one, confirm, and then click confirm. See, successfully edited block public access for this bucket. Now what you have to do is go to buckets, okay, and then open the bucket. Again, you have to select this one, check this one, and then go to actions, then make public using ACL. Make public using ACL. So now you can click on make public. Earlier we got an option called, we got a warning message called block public access is on. So you need to edit that one. Now you don't get that option, hopefully. So just click make public. So if you click on make public, you can see successfully edited public access. Now the information below, you can see the warning also. The information below will no longer be available after you navigate from this page. So that means this file, whatever the file that you have given public access, it is available for public. Now what I'll do, I'll just go to the same tab. The URL doesn't change, URL remains same. Okay, now I'll go to this tab and I'll just click Control or I'll just click reload here. Okay, you can see the reload option. Just click reload option. Once you click reload option, you should be able to see this one. So just click this one. Yeah. So now you can see. Now, even if I share this particular link to anybody, anybody can access that. Now, I'll just post this link in the chat box. So one of you can, or all of you also, no problem. So you can try opening this link. So click this link. I have just pasted the link. So just click this link and try to open it. Yeah, I guess it is available. Yes, it is posted in the chat box. Now, can somebody check whether it is visible for you also or not? If you can confirm me that, then we can close this particular session.
It is visible, sir.
Exactly. So now it is publicly available for anybody. It doesn't matter whether you have an account or not. You don't need AWS account to access the files. Okay. Even if you don't have an account also, you can access the files. So that's the entire concept of the creating the bucket and then uploading an object, downloading the object, and then making it to public. Now, let me show you how to delete the buckets. Okay, let me show you how to delete the buckets. Now here, what you have to do is, if you select this one, and then click delete. What it will show you is it will show you an error message because you have some objects in this bucket. Now let me show, let me click that one. So I am selecting the bucket and then click delete. It will show you the warning. See, this bucket is not empty. So buckets must be empty before they can be deleted. So you need to empty the bucket. That means you need to delete all the files that are available in the bucket. So in order to delete the file, just select this one and then click delete. It will ask you for confirmation again. So if you want to delete it permanently, remember it is permanently deleting. Okay, it won't be stored anywhere in AWS in availability zones because you are deleting it. Okay, so now the object is not available. Now you can go back to the bucket and then you can click on the bucket and then you can delete now. So select this one, click delete. It will ask you the permission again to provide the name of the bucket. So just enter the name of the bucket, copy paste, delete bucket. So you can see successfully deleted bucket name. So now you will see again only one bucket. Earlier it was two, now it is only one. This bucket is there. So that's all for today's class.